Hey everyone, this is JP here at Comic Town, and we're going to be starting a box opening here for Dragons of Tarkir in just a few moments. But I did want to let you guys know about something that's happening here at the store, and that is the Comic Town Road to Origins events. StarCityGames.com is going to be holding their invitational, or one of the 4 of them this year, at Origins, and we have a bunch of events to prepare you for the upcoming tournaments. First, in April and May, at all of our standard FNMs, they are going to be run as open trials. The first place winner in each of these events will receive free entry into the open of their choice throughout the season, plus a 1-round buy in that open. That's a $50 value you get just for coming in first at one of our FNMs. In April, also, all of our FNMs are win-a-boxes, so you should definitely stop in for those. April 11th and 12th is Star City Games States here in Columbus. We are holding those down at the Convention Center. The 11th is Standard, and the 12th is Modern. Those events also provide invites to the StarCityGames.com Invitational Circuit for the first place winner, plus points awarded to other finishers. On May 17th, here at the store, we have another StarCityGames.com Invitational Qualifier, and that will be in Modern. The winner of that event will receive an invite to the Invitational of their choice, along with points going to the top 8 finishers of that event. We have a lot of opportunities for players to earn points, and we hope to see you out at some of our events. But for now, let's head to the box of Dragons of Tarkir. The first card we're actually going to look at is a card you're not going to be opening in your box. If you buy a box of Dragons of Tarkir at participating stores, you will receive this alternate art foil Ojutize command. It's got 4 awesome modes on the card, and this is part of the command cycle, the 4 other cards of which you can open in packs of Dragons of Tarkir. But for now, let's go ahead and tear into the box. On here. And for this box opening, we're just going to dive straight to the rares and talk about those. If there are uncommons that come up that are awesome to look at, we'll discuss those as well. There's the insert that you get on the top. Talks a little bit about the set. And let's get going. Alright, got my first pack that we're opening here. So we got to start with Call Down Skirmisher. And let's see what our rare is. Looks like we got a foil. Nice! The first card we open in our pack is indeed a Planeswalker. This is Narset Transcendent. A lot of the Jeskai and blue-white control players have been hyping up this card for weeks. This is a definite hit for us right here, especially with the rebound ability coming off the -2. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell from your hand this turn, it gains rebound, granting it the ability to be cast again during your upkeep. But that's not even the final thing about this pack. We've got a foil in this pack as well. And the foil card that we have is a common. It's Monastery Loremaster, but it's always fun to get an awesome mythic along with a foil in your first pack. Basic land and token off to the side. Let's keep diving through.
That's awesome.
I'm super excited for that to be the first pack we opened. Like, there have been so many people asking about Narset in the store, so I'm real excited to get another copy of her. All right, starting off with the resupply and diving down through. And looks like we got 2 of the uncommon dragons, and our rare is Assault Formation. People have been talking about using this card as a combo kill in Standard, mostly combining it with Mardu Ascendancy that gives toughness to all of your creatures, and then obviously its ability where each creature you control deals combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. With the +0/+3 from Mardu Ascendancy when you sacrifice it, combined with this card, can lead to a lethal kill on turn 4. I think it's a very cute combo, but that's all it is for me. Land and token right there, moving right along. Alright, so Glaring Aegis, diving through. And our rare is Dramoka's Command. This is another one of the command cycle that we talked about with the box topper rare that you get with the set. It's got 4 modes on there, and you choose 2 of those. This goes back to the command cycle from Lorwyn. Each of these command cycle spells have 2 colors in their casting cost to go along with the dragons that they align themselves with. This entire set is built around these allied color combinations, so we'll see a lot of these colors coming up. Going on Dramoka's command itself, we've got 4 very relevant modes that people have been talking about using: preventing damage, or preventing all damage that an instant or sorcery would deal, destroying sacrificing enchantments, putting counters on creatures, and causing your creatures to fight. These modes are always relevant in the games where you play them, so I think this card is actually going to see a fair amount of standard play, especially in the white-green devotion lists. Land and token there, moving along. All right, moving on in. Starting with Dutiful Attendant, and we'll dive through to the rare. And our rare is another mythic rare. We've got one of the rare Dragon Lords, Dragon Lord Ojatai. Now, some of you might remember the Dragon Lords, or the dragons that were born from the Dragon Tempest in Fate Reforged. Well, these brood dragons are now over 1,000 years old and are now elder dragons. This elder dragon, Ojatai, which is 3 white blue, has flying, it has hexproof as long as it's untapped, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you get to look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 in your hand, and then the rest on the bottom of your library. Whenever it connects, it casts a card from the set called Anticipate, which is really good, helping you dig further and further into your deck. Could be an interesting card to see, but for now, there's a land in the token. Let's move on. All right, starting off with Impact Tremors, and let's dive through. All right, our rare, if you remember Zurgo Helm Smasher from Khans of Tarkir, he's a little smaller now. This is Zurgo Bell Striker. He can't block creatures with power 2 or greater, and he's a 2/2 for 1 red. Now, the cool thing about Zurgo is you can dash him in, so he's able to attack the turn you cast him if you dash him in, but he's definitely not near as strong as his Khans of Tarkir counterpart. He could be used in aggressive red decks, which a lot of players have been talking about playing. There's a land in the token. Let's move on. Here's our next pack. Crack it open. Now, the cool thing about Dragons of Tarkir is there's lots of throwback cards that harken back to cards that were in Khans of Tarkir, but are now changed in some way for the Dragon storyline. If you remember the rare in Khans of Tarkir Wandering Tower Shell, well, he's a little more dead right now. This is Wandering Tomb Shell, which if you look and compare the 2 arts side by side, they're very similar, except one is a very alive turtle, and this is a very dead turtle. Let's see if there's any more throwbacks. We already saw one with Zurgo Bellstriker, but for now, let's dive through to the rare. And we've got for our rare, Foul Renewal. We get to return target creature card from our graveyard to our hand, and target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the toughness of the creature card returned this way. This is an interesting card to bring back to the battlefield, and people have been talking about using this in a reanimator strategy. Again, I think it's on the same level as the Assault formation. It's cute, but we'll see how much play it gets. For now, there's the insert, just an advertisement in the land. Let's move on. All right, we've got a reprint to start off this pack in Dragon Fodder, a reprint from Shards of Alara. Let's dive through to the rare. And our rare in this pack is Avatar of the Resolute. It's a 3/2 for double green with Reach and Trample. And Avatar of the Resolute enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. This is made to be played with the Bolster or Outlast mechanic from Khans of Tarkir and Fate Reforged, where you put +1/+1 counters on creatures. Again, it's a cute card, could be interesting. We'll see if it lands in the green devotion list that we've been seeing recently as well. But for now, insert and land. Let's go to the next pack. All right, let's move to the next pack. All right, I'm going to stop and talk about the ad in this pack because coming up very soon, we do have the set Modern Masters 2015 edition coming out. If you haven't been following the spoilers with this set, we're seeing some of the cards that we've been needing for the Modern set coming out very soon. That'll be coming out at the end of May. Stay tuned for more information about that on the channel. For now, our first card's Hand of Silumgar. Let's dive through to the rare. And our rare is Hidden Dragon Slayer. This is a 2/1 for 1 and a white with lifelink, and it has the ability Megamorph. Megamorph allows you to cast it as a morph for 3 mana, and then you can turn it face up for its Megamorph cost, and when you do, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it. But for Dragon Slayer, that's not its only ability. When it's turned face up, you get to destroy target creature with power 4 or greater and opponent controls. A lot of this rare cycle of Megamorphs has been talked about for its impact that it may have on Standard. It'll at least be very playable in Limited. We'll see if it finds a Standard home. Land and insert. Let's go to the next pack. All right. Silumgar Sibsig Icebreaker. Gotta love all these cool names that Wizards of the Coast gives us to look at. And our rare is Icefall Regent. This is part of the cycle of monocolored regents that is in Dragons of Tarkir. This is a flying 4/3 for 3 blue. When it enters the battlefield, you get to tap a creature an opponent controls, and the creature doesn't get to untap as long as you control Icefall Regent. And any spell that targets this is going to cost 2 more. I think the spell's cost actually makes it prohibitive to play in Standard, but I think this is going to be a huge bomb in your Limited games. Land in the insert. Let's move on. And it looks like, again, we meet our friends Sibsig Icebreakers. Let's dive through to the rare. Oh, there's Anticipate that I talked about earlier from the Dragon Lord Ojatai. Looking at the top 3 cards of your library, putting 1 in your hand and the rest on the bottom in any order. This is going to be a common spell that is going to slot into all of your blue decks, I believe, in Standard. It's a very powerful effect. Continuing diving through, our rare this time is a Crater Elemental. You get a 0/6 for 2 and a red. You get to sacrifice it to deal 4 damage to a creature for red. And if you've got Formidable, which means that you have a total amount of creatures with power of 8 or greater, then you get to give him a base power of 8 or greater. I think this is a very interesting card for Limited purposes, but I would be shocked to see this played in Standard in any way. It seems very weak. Land in the insert. Moving right along. All right, we have Kolaghan Storm Singer to start off. And our rare is Atarka's Command, another one of the command cycle. This has been talked about to have a lot of relevant modes for Modern play, actually. The biggest of which is where you get to deal 3 damage to each opponent, and you can prevent opponents from gaining life this turn. This is a great additional burn spell for the burn deck in Modern. And in Standard, being able to give your creatures +1/+1 in reach should be enough for some of the aggressive red decks to punch through, or the aggressive red-green decks to punch through for the last bits of damage. Land a token, moving along. All right, so we have Champion of Arishan to start off with. Let's keep diving through. All right, so a rare is Living Lore, 3 and a blue for a star, and that star happens to be the converted mana cost of an instant or sorcery you exile when it enters the battlefield. The coolest part of this card is that when Living Lore deals combat damage, you can choose to sacrifice him, and if you do, you get to cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. I think this card has a very strong spot in Commander where you're playing big, bomby, splashy spells and he can have a high power and toughness. I don't see him having impact in any other constructed format, however. Land in the insert in the back. Let's move on to the next pack. All right, here's our next pack. We'll start with Resupply, where we gain life and draw a card at instant speed. Let's dive through to the back for the rare. Our rare this time is Pitiless Horde. It's 2 and a black for 5/3. That at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 2 life. That's not a good thing. But he does have the dash mechanic for 2 black. You can cast it for its dash cost, and if you do, it gets haste, and you get to return it to your hand at the beginning of the next instep. So you get to avoid the drawback of the card with the additional drawback of not being able to keep this guy on the field. I think this is going to be a strong card to be dashed in Limited. Don't see it having an impact in Standard or other constructed formats. Land and insert in the back. Let's go to the next pack. All right. Diving on in, there's our now dead friend Wandering Tower Shell. Let's keep diving. And our rare this time is Myth Realized. It is a enchantment that you cast for white, and whenever you cast another non-creature spell, you get to put a lore counter on here. You can also spend 2 and a white to put a lore counter on Myth Realized, and you can pay 1 white to make Myth Realized an creature until end of turn with power and toughness equal to the number of lore counters on Myth Realized. This card is very interesting. People have been talking about it possibly being played in Modern and Legacy, where you have lots of cheap spells that you can cast quickly and then use this card as a kill condition in these control decks. Me personally, I would be shocked to see this card see play immediately because a lot of the creature removal in those sets still kills this card, along with other cards that wouldn't also normally kill creatures and instead would just kill enchantments. But time will tell if this card actually will see play in those formats. Landing token in the back. Let's move to the next pack. All right, first card in this pack is another Resupply. Let's keep diving. And our rare this time is Stratus Dancer. Stratus Dancer is another Megamorph that you can cast face down for 3. Normally it's just a flying 2/1 for 1 and a blue, but when you turn it face up, you get to counter target instant or sorcery spell. The ability to play this as a creature and then later use it as a counterspell is something that mono blue decks have been talking about possibly main decking in their construction. I think it could see some play, but for now, there's the land and the token. Let's dive on through. All right, next pack. Little struggle there. And we'll start off with Glaring Aegis and keep diving through to the rare. Our rare this time is CDC, Undead Vizier. This is another throwback card like Undead Tomb Shell and Zergo Bell Smasher. CDC, who used to be the leader of the Sultai clan, is now a dead zombie Naga. She's castable for 3 black for a 4/6 Death Toucher, and it has the ability Exploit. Now, Exploit is an ability that it goes on the stack when a creature with Exploit enters the battlefield, and when that ability resolves, you can choose to sacrifice a creature. And when CDC exploits a creature, meaning you sacrificed a creature to that ability, you get to search your library for any 1 card and put it in your hand, and then shuffle your library. The ability to tutor on a card that very easily blocks and kills Siege Rhino and Tasigur in Standard is something that I think is going to be a very powerful effect. I expect to see this card played in the Abzan control list, but we'll see where this card actually ends up in Standard. Land and token in the back. Let's move on to the next pack. All right. Our first card here is Dutiful Attendant. Let's dive through and find that rare. A rare this time is Silumgar's Command. We're at the blue-black command in the cycle. It's castable for 3 blue-black. And you get to choose 2 effects, all of which are things that the blue-black control deck wants to do. You can counter target non-creature spell. You can return a permanent to that person's hand, which could be a land. You could give a creature -3/-3 until end of turn, or you could kill a planeswalker. These all seem like things that the blue-black deck wants to do. Cost is a little high, but I think the blue-black decks can definitely swing this card. Land and advertisement in the back. Let's move on to the next pack. All right. Diving in here, we have the new and incredibly creepy art for Mind Rot here to start the pack. Let's dive through for that rare. And the rare in this pack is... Oop, we do have foil back there, so we'll look at that foil in a second. Foe Razor Regent. This was one of the promotional cards you could have received over pre-release weekend for playing the Your Dragon Their Doom Dragon Fury game. This is a flying 4/5 for 5 green, which is kind of a small creature for that mana cost, but when it enters the battlefield, you get it to fight target creature you don't control, and whenever a creature you control fights, you get to put 2 +1/+1 counters on it at the beginning of the next upkeep, essentially making this card a 6/7 if it lives until the end of the turn you play it, which most of the time you will. A flying 6/7 is huge and should swing through for a lot of damage. My only question is whether or not the 5 green casting cost will allow it to be played in Standard. I think this is more at home in Commander, which we'll see. We have Stampeding Elkherd, a card with Formidable that gives all your creatures trample if you have power 8 or more on the field for 3 green as a 5/5. I think this card is a definite win for Limited, and it's got cool shiny effects on it. In the back we have the land and the token. Let's move on to the next pack. All right, moving right on through. We have... All right, so we're starting off here with a Formidable Sabertooth Outrider, which gives it first strike till end of turn if you are formidable, meaning you have 8 or more power on the field. Let's dive through to the rare. Got a nice Evolving Wilds, Silk Wrap, and our rare is an Ojutai's Command. This is the same as the Buy a Box promo that we talked about earlier. For 2 white-blue, aligned with Ojutai's colors, you get to choose 2 effects, returning a creature card with CMC 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield, gaining you life, countering a creature spell, or drawing a card. A lot of people have been brewing with Narset in mind with this card to combo to rebound this spell to give you lots of extra value for your decks. This is a very, very powerful command, as we've talked about. There's the land and the insert. Let's move to the next pack. All right, here we go. All right, and we'll start with a Territorial Rock. Let's dive through to the rare. And our rare is Sunscorcher Regent. Again, another card in the Regent cycle. For 3 green, you get a dragon creature that is a 4...
Sorry, I said white.
Oh, okay.
So, go ahead.
I thought I said 3 white.
No, you said 3 green. So go. All right, go ahead.
All right, and our rare is Sunscorch Regent, a 3 white flying dragon for 4/3. And whenever an opponent casts a spell, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on this dragon, making it increasingly large as you continue to cast spells. We also have a foil behind this card. That foil is another rare, an Ire Shaman, that can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. It is a 1 red 2/1. It also has Megamorph for red, and whenever you choose to turn it face up after casting it face down for 3 generic mana, you get to exile the top card of your library, and until the end of your turn, you can play that card. This effect has been seen and used to great effect on Chandra Pyromaster and also Outpost Siege. This card could fill that spot in an aggressive red deck. We'll see if that happens this weekend at some of the big Standard tournaments. As usual, in the back we have the insert and the land, and with our 2 rares, let's move on to the next pack. All right, diving in here, our first card is another Territorial Rock. Let's dive through to the rare. And our rare is a Silumgar Assassin, another Megamorph that can be turned face up for 2 and a black. It is normally a 1 black 2/1, and creatures with power greater than the Assassin can't block it. And if you choose to turn it face up for its Megamorph cost, you get to destroy target creature with power 3 or less an opponent controls. A very powerful Megamorph effect. We have the land and a token behind it. Let's move to the next pack. Okay, our first card is the formidable saber-toothed tiger. Let's dive through to the rare. And our rare is Collected Company. This is 3 and a green for an instant that allows you to look at the top 6 cards of your library and put up to 2 creature cards with converted mana cost 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield, and then put the rest of them on the bottom of your library in any order. This is a very interesting card. I personally haven't figured out a brew where this goes, but it's a pretty powerful effect being able to tutor up 2 cards from the top of your deck and cast them for free. I would be interested to see if this card ends up being a combo piece in some deck. For right now, we have the land and the token. Let's move to the next pack. All right. Starting with the Shambling Goblin. Creepy. Moving right along. Our rare in this pack is a Death Mist Raptor. For 1 green, we get a Mythic Lizard Beast. That's a 3/3 with Death Touch. And whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, you get to return Death Mist Raptor from your graveyard to the battlefield face up or face down. It has a Megamorph ability for 4 and a green, meaning you can cast any copy of this card you had in your deck face down and then turn it up later. With a bunch of these together, you can end up comboing together to have recurring 3/3s coming back to the field. It should be an interesting card to see in the Green Devotion list. We also have a foil in this pack. That foil is a common that you may remember from Khans of Tarkir. This is Tormenting Voice. It is a direct reprint of the card, but instead of Sarkhan hearing Ugin's voice, instead we see Ugin realizing what has happened while he has been in his cocoon. Again, in the back of the pack, we have the land and the insert. Let's move to the next pack. All right. In this pack, we will start out with a Dutiful Attendant, and we'll dive through for the rare. And that rare is another Mythic Rare. This one, not quite as cool as the Death Mist Raptor. This is Clone Legion and should find a very quick spot in your commander decks. For 7 blue, yes, that's 9 mana. It's a sorcery, and you get to put a creature target, for each creature target player controls, you get to put a copy of that creature onto the battlefield. Basically, if your opponents have a huge board built up, you can copy that opponent's entire board. Very swingy effect in a commander game, and we'll probably be seeing some play there. We have the land and the insert in the back. Let's move to the next pack. Next pack. We have Kolaghan's Skirmisher to start it off, and diving on through, we have for our rare, one of the only, actually the only rare land in the set. This is Haven of the Spirit Dragon. You can tap it for colorless, a colored mana that you can use to cast dragon creature spells, or you can tap this land and sacrifice it, and you get to return a dragon creature or Ugin Planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. A lot of people have been saying that this is a powerful card to be used to recur Ugins that die, or just to awesomely cast all of your awesome dragons that are generally awesome. I think it's definitely something casual decks that play dragons want immediately. It'd be interesting if there is a spot for this in Standard, considering how effectively it fixes dragon decks. As usual, there's the land and the token in the back. Well, let's move to the next pack. All right, starting this pack off with a resupply. Diving through to the rare, we have a Gleam of Authority. This is a 1 white enchantment aura that enchants a creature, and that creature gets a +1 counter, or gets +1 for each other creature you control with a +1 counter. This creature has Vigilance, and you can pay 1 white, tap it, and Bolster 1. Now, bolster is a mechanic we haven't talked about quite yet. To bolster, you get to choose a creature you control with the least power and put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the bolster number. In this case, 1 would mean you put 1 counter on. Basically, this card can continue to ratchet up and continue to put other counters on those cards that you have in play. Could be interesting for limited. That's about all I see it doing. We also have a foil Tarkir. You read on the back, that's a Megamorph that deals 1 damage to a creature or player when it's turned face up. But for now, we'll check out the land and the insert and move on to the next pack. All right. And in this pack, we start off with a Kolaghan Stormsinger. Moving through the pack, we see as our rare that we have a Necromaster Dragon. This is a 3 blue-black dragon. That's a 4/4 that's flying. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you can pay 2. If you do, you put a 2/2 black zombie into play, and your opponent puts the top 2 cards of their deck into their graveyard. Very interesting card. Cool in limited. Don't see it making an impact outside. We also have a foil Deathwind, a reprint from Avacyn Restored. That's an instant, now mythic, for black X that gives target creature -X/-X until end of turn. Cool removal in limited again, along with the cool rare for limited, but I don't see either of these cards making standard or constructed impact. Land and the token in the back. Let's move to the next pack. All right, in this pack, we start off with a Kindled Fury. Moving through the pack, our rare this time is a Berserker's Onslaught. 3 red for an enchantment that gives all attacking creatures you control double strike, meaning it deals first strike and regular damage in each of the combat damage steps. Cool card, definitely something I could see having a little bit of casual and commander impact, but not something I think you're going to see in standard. Land in the token, let's move to the next pack. And diving through, we start with a Kolaghan Stormsinger. Diving through the pack, we have for our rare a Sunbringer's Touch. For 2 green, we have a sorcery where we get to bolster X, where X is the number of cards in our hand. And then each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it gets trample until end of turn, a pseudo overrun effect for the deck. Again, I think this is cool for limited, and I see it making very little impact outside of that. Not super happy with this rare. Kind of sad to open it, especially after the cool cards we opened earlier. There's the land of the token. We'll move right along. Getting down to the last few packs here in the box. Looks like we've got about 6 to go. Here is Center Soul. Moving through the pack, we have as our rare Den Protector. This is another Megamorph card that megamorphs for 1 green. Creatures with power less than Den Protector can't block it, unlike the Silumgar's Assassin. And when you megamorph this card, you get to return target card from our graveyard to our hand. A lot of people have been comparing this card to another card from 5th Dawn called Eternal Witness, and I think it fills that role very well, giving you a slightly bigger body for a fairly powerful effect. Will be interesting to see. Our rare in this pack is Illusory Gains. It is a mind control effect where you enchant a creature for 3 blue. You get to control the enchanted creature, but whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you have to attach Illusory Gains to that creature. So the creature that you are mind controlling over the course of the game will continue to change. This is a very interesting effect, and we'll see if it sees play in limited. I think that's the only place we might see this card played. Land and token in the back. Let's move on to our final pack of Dragons of Tarkir. So we've seen 1 Planeswalker so far. We've seen 4 of the 5 commands so far. Let's see if we'll get 1 more Mythic or if we'll get just another regular rare. We start with Territorial Rock. We'll go through card by card by card, heading to the back of the pack. What will we see? And our final rare of the block is, oh, just another rare. We have a Boltwing Marauder, a 3 black-red flying 5/4. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. This is an interesting effect for limited, and we'll probably not see effect outside of that. We do have, however, a very interesting dash card that people have been talking about leading up to the release of Dragons, which is Lightning Berserker. It has dash and fire breathing. Fire breathing is anytime you spend a mana, and it gives a creature an additional point of power. People have been talking about using this in aggressive red decks, and I don't blame them. This card is definitely a pushed card that could see constructed play. We have a land and a token to finish our final pack, and that concludes our opening of Dragons of Tarkir. Thanks for tuning in and checking out everything that we have here in our Dragons of Tarkir recording. Just a final reminder about the Comic Town Road to Origins, giving out open trials every single standard FNM in April and May, with StarCityGames.com Standard and Modern States April 11th and 12th, and finally, our Modern IQ on May 17th. We look forward to seeing you at these events. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time for Magic Origins.